We know there's a resurrection of our bodies. We'll get new bodies added to our soul and spirit, and we'll live forever.
From an early age, many of us are taught to view death as the final chapter, an irreversible ending. It is often portrayed as the closing of a door, beyond which nothing remains. But what if this perspective is incomplete? Across cultures and traditions, there are beliefs and experiences that suggest death may not be an end, but a transition, one that leads to something beyond our current understanding. The illusion of finality. The idea that death is final is deeply ingrained in us. We feel its absence when a loved one passes, and we experience it as an overwhelming, irreversible loss. We grieve, mourn, and often carry the weight of that absence for years, or even for a lifetime. But what if we are looking at it all wrong? What if the only reason we perceive death as an end is that we are trapped in a limited view of reality? What if death is not the conclusion of a life but a passage to something far greater than we can imagine? In many cultures and philosophies, the concept of death is seen not as an end but as a transition into another state of being. Rather than a finality, it is often perceived as a doorway leading to a new phase of existence, one that continues beyond the physical realm. Ancient Egyptian beliefs, for instance, viewed death as a journey to the afterlife, where the soul would navigate a series of trials before reaching its ultimate destination. They believed in the Ba, the personality, and the Ka, the life force, both of which needed to be preserved for a successful transition. The deceased was thought to travel through the Duat, the underworld, facing challenges and answering moral questions before being judged by Osiris. The famous weighing of the heart ceremony determined whether a soul was worthy of eternal paradise in the field of reeds or doomed to oblivion. This intricate process was not seen as an end, but as a necessary transformation, a test that proved the soul's readiness for continued existence beyond death. Similarly, Hindu philosophy embraces the idea of reincarnation, where the soul, Atman, is eternal and merely sheds the body like a worn-out garment. According to the Bhagavad Gita, death is not to be feared, for it is only a transition from one life to the next, governed by karma. The cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara, continues until the soul attains liberation, moksha, breaking free from the cycle and merging with the divine. This perspective shifts the focus from mourning an ending to understanding life as a continuous journey of growth and spiritual evolution. In Buddhist traditions, death is viewed as a passage to another form of existence, shaped by one's actions and state of mind at the moment of passing. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, Bardo Thodol, describes the intermediate state, Bardo, between death and rebirth, where the consciousness undergoes different phases, encountering visions and experiences that reflect one's past karma. For Buddhists, death is not a fearful event, but an opportunity to transcend illusions and move closer to enlightenment. Even in Western philosophical thought, death has long been considered a gateway rather than an end. The ancient Greeks believed in the immortality of the soul and the idea that the afterlife was a continuation of the soul's journey. These perspectives, spanning across time and cultures, all point to a shared understanding. Death is not destruction, but transformation. It is not a loss, but a passage. Whether through reincarnation, the afterlife, or the merging of consciousness with the universe, the journey of the soul does not end. It simply takes a new form. The Christian faith speaks of an eternal life, where those who follow the teachings of Christ will live forever in the kingdom of heaven. The Bible is filled with parables that allude to a greater existence beyond this physical world, where the spirit is not bound by the limits of time and space. In the words of Jesus, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live." So, why then do we fear death? What makes us so afraid of letting go? It is because we are conditioned to believe that what we see, hear and feel in the physical world is all that exists. We have been taught that life is only what we experience in the here and now, that once we die, everything is gone forever. But what if there is more? What if life is a constant, ever-changing cycle that transcends the limitations of the physical body? Consider the experiences of those who have had near-death experiences. For centuries, people who have been clinically dead for moments have reported incredible stories of light, love, and connection. They describe seeing loved ones who have passed before them, traveling through tunnels of light, and experiencing a profound sense of peace and unity. These experiences are not limited to any one culture, country, or religion. They are universal, transcending time and space. They speak of a truth that cannot be ignored, that there is more to life than what we can perceive with our physical senses. This idea is echoed in the philosophies of many great thinkers throughout history. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato believed in the immortality of the soul. In his work Phaedo, he discusses how the soul is eternal, and death is merely the release of the soul from the body, enabling it to continue its journey in another realm. In Phaedo, Plato presents a series of philosophical arguments through the character of Socrates, who is awaiting execution and discussing death with his followers. Rather than seeing death as a tragic end, Socrates views it as a liberation of the soul from the confines of the body. He argues that true philosophers should not fear death, as they spend their lives preparing for the moment when the soul is finally freed from bodily distractions and can pursue pure knowledge. Theory of recollection. One of the key arguments in Phaedo is the theory of recollection, which suggests that learning is simply the process of remembering knowledge that the soul already possesses from a previous existence. Plato proposes that the soul existed before birth and had access to eternal truths, but upon entering a physical body, it forgets them. The process of learning, therefore, is not acquiring new knowledge, but recalling what was already known. This implies that the soul must predate the body, and thus it must continue to exist after death as well. Another important argument is the theory of opposites, which states that all things come from their opposites. Just as life emerges from death, death must in turn give rise to life. This cyclical process suggests that the soul does not simply vanish after death, but moves into another state of being, eventually returning in a new form. Plato also introduces the argument from simplicity, which claims that the soul, being non-physical and indivisible, cannot be broken apart or destroyed like material objects. Unlike the body, which is composed of multiple parts and subject to decay, the soul is a simple and unchanging entity. Because it does not decompose, it must continue existing beyond the death of the physical form. Plato's belief in the soul's immortality was deeply influenced by his teacher Socrates, who often spoke of the eternal nature of the soul and the importance of detaching from physical desires in pursuit of wisdom. In Phaedo, Socrates argues that philosophy is a preparation for death because it teaches individuals to focus on the immaterial and divine rather than the fleeting concerns of the body. He asserts that true knowledge can only be attained when the soul is free from bodily distractions, making death not something to fear, but something to embrace. Before drinking the poison hemlock that would end his life, Socrates remained calm and composed, reinforcing his belief that death is not the destruction of the self, but a transition to a higher state of existence. His willingness to face death with serenity serves as a powerful example of his conviction in the immortality of the soul. Plato's ideas on the soul's immortality have had a lasting impact on various philosophical, religious, and spiritual traditions. His concept of an eternal soul influenced early Christian thought, particularly in the works of Saint Augustine, who integrated Platonic ideas into Christian theology. The notion that the soul is distinct from the body and continues after death became a cornerstone of many religious beliefs. In modern times, quantum physics has begun to challenge long-held assumptions about life, death, and the nature of reality itself. Unlike classical physics, which views the universe as a predictable mechanical system, quantum mechanics suggests that reality is far more fluid, interconnected, and influenced by observation. This has led some scientists and philosophers to revisit age-old questions about consciousness, identity, and the persistence of the self beyond physical death. One of the most profound ideas emerging from quantum physics is the notion that consciousness may not be merely a byproduct of the brain's biochemical processes. Instead, it may be something more fundamental, an intrinsic part of the universe itself. This challenges the conventional materialist view, which holds that thoughts, emotions, and self-awareness are nothing more than electrical signals in the brain that cease to exist when the body dies. Experiments in quantum mechanics, particularly those involving the observer effect, have demonstrated that the act of observation can directly influence the behavior of particles at the quantum level. In the famous double-slit experiment, electrons behave differently when they are being observed, shifting from a wave-like state to a particle-like state. This suggests that consciousness plays a direct role in shaping reality, hinting at a deeper connection between mind and matter. The concept of quantum entanglement further supports the idea that consciousness may extend beyond the individual brain. When two particles become entangled, they remain connected regardless of distance. What happens to one instantly affects the other, even if they are light years apart. Some theorists propose that human consciousness operates in a similar way, existing as part of a vast, interconnected field rather than being confined to a single physical body. This opens the possibility that the essence of an individual, what we call the soul, might persist beyond death, existing in a non-local quantum state. Dr. Stuart Hameroff and physicist Roger Penrose have proposed a theory known as orchestrated objective reduction, which suggests that consciousness arises from quantum processes within the microtubules of brain cells. According to this theory, when the body dies, the quantum information that makes up consciousness is not lost, but instead dissipates into the universe, potentially allowing for a continuation of awareness in some form. This aligns with ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions that have long spoken of consciousness as an eternal force, existing beyond the limitations of the physical form. Even the idea of parallel universes, suggested by the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, raises intriguing possibilities regarding death and existence. If every possible outcome of an event plays out in a separate reality, then death in one universe may simply mean the continuation of consciousness in another. This aligns with certain spiritual beliefs that speak of multiple realms of existence, where the soul transitions to different planes rather than ceasing to exist. This idea aligns with many ancient teachings that suggest our consciousness exists beyond the physical body. Perhaps when the physical form fails, our consciousness does not cease to exist, but continues on in a new form or realm, just as ancient traditions have long suggested. And yet, we continue to cling to the idea that death is the end. We fear it, avoid thinking about it, and do everything we can to extend our time in this world. But what if, in doing so, we are missing the point? What if our fear of death is preventing us from living fully, from embracing the eternal cycle of life and death that is inherent in all things. Throughout nature, we see the constant rhythm of life, death, and rebirth. The cycle of the seasons is a perfect example. The death of winter gives way to the birth of spring, and the cycle continues year after year. The same can be said for all living things. Plants, animals, and humans all experience birth, growth, and death in a never-ending cycle. This is the natural order, the flow of the universe. Death is not an interruption, but a part of the ongoing dance of life. Think about the death of a star. A star's death is a violent and beautiful event that gives birth to new elements, new matter, and even new stars. Without the death of stars, there would be no planets, no life. It is through the process of death that creation itself is perpetuated. This same principle applies to us on a spiritual level. Our physical death is simply the transition of our consciousness into a new form, allowing us to continue evolving, learning, and growing. Death is not to be feared, but embraced. The Taoist philosophy teaches that we must live in harmony with the natural flow of life and death. The Tao Te Ching speaks of the balance between life and death, saying, "Life and death are one thread, the same line viewed from different sides." This teaching encourages us to see death not as a force that disrupts life, but as a natural part of the continuous cycle. It is only through embracing death as a part of life that we can truly understand its role in our spiritual journey. When we begin to see death not as an end, but as a beginning, we free ourselves from the fear and anxiety that have held us captive for so long. We can live fully, knowing that death is not the end of our story, but the beginning of a new chapter. The evidence is all around us, in nature, in ancient philosophies, and in the experiences of those who have glimpsed beyond the veil of death. Embracing the infinite cycle. For centuries, many of us have been conditioned to think of death as the ultimate separation, the final curtain call where everything comes to a halt. This belief has shaped how we live, how we grieve, and how we experience life. But what if we've been wrong all along? What if death is simply another transition in an infinite cycle, as natural and necessary as birth itself? This is not a new idea. It's an understanding that has been passed down through countless spiritual traditions and cultures, from the ancient Egyptians to the indigenous peoples of the Americas. These cultures saw death not as something to fear, but as a continuation of the journey, an evolution of the soul, one that moved from one state of being to another. Death was regarded as a transformation, a metamorphosis akin to a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. The butterfly doesn't die when it emerges from its cocoon. It simply takes on a new form, one that is different but connected to its previous existence. Could this metaphor apply to us? Could it be that the death of our physical body is merely a transformation into a new state of being, one that is just as real, just as vibrant, and just as meaningful? Life is seen as a continuous flow, where each death leads to the possibility of a new beginning. Death is not the end of the story, but the continuation of an ongoing journey, where the soul carries with it the lessons and experiences of its previous lives. The ultimate goal in Buddhism is to break free from this cycle of samsara, to transcend the wheel of reincarnation and reach a state of enlightenment or nirvana. But even in this lofty goal, death is not seen as something to be feared or avoided. It is simply another step on the path to greater understanding and spiritual liberation. The Hindu tradition, too, shares this view. In Hinduism, the concept of moksha, the liberation of the soul, is achieved by transcending the cycle of birth and death. Like Buddhism, death is not a finality, but a transition to a higher state of being. It is merely passing through different forms, gaining experience and wisdom along the way. Death is not the end of the journey, but an opportunity for the soul to shed its old form and step into a new one, just as a snake sheds its skin. What can we learn from these ancient traditions? Perhaps it's time to rethink our own view of death. Instead of seeing it as the end of all things, we could begin to see it as a natural part of the cycle, a necessary step in the evolution of our consciousness. The idea that death is merely a transition is not only found in religious texts, but is also echoed by modern scientists and philosophers. For example, the concept of consciousness, which many scientists now agree exists independently of the brain, suggests that our awareness may continue after the death of our physical body. Could consciousness, like the soul in ancient traditions, exist beyond the body and continue its journey into new realms? Near-death experiences have provided compelling evidence that death may be a doorway to another existence. People who have had NDEs often describe out-of-body experiences where they feel as though they are floating above their physical body, observing the events around them. They speak of a sense of peace and love that is beyond anything they've experienced in life. Some describe encountering deceased loved ones, as well as a bright light that seems to call them forward. These experiences suggest that there is more to existence than what we can see and touch in the material world. The fact that so many people report similar experiences, regardless of their cultural background or religious beliefs, points to the possibility that these encounters are not just figments of the imagination, but glimpses into a deeper truth about the nature of life and death. But how does this change our lives here and now? If death is merely a passage, not an end, how does this affect the way we live? For one, it encourages us to live without fear. If we understand that death is not the end of our journey but rather a new beginning, we can approach life with a sense of purpose and freedom. We no longer have to fear the unknown, for we know that our consciousness will continue to evolve and expand, even after our physical body has perished. This understanding gives us the courage to live more fully, to embrace our passions, our dreams, and our purpose without worrying about the limitations of time. Imagine what it would feel like to live with the knowledge that death is not something to be feared, but an integral part of life's grand design. We could stop wasting time on petty concerns and focus on what truly matters. We could be more compassionate, more understanding, and more connected to each other, knowing that we are all part of the same cycle. Life would no longer be a race to accumulate wealth or status, but a journey of personal growth, self-discovery, and service to others. Even in the face of loss, this understanding of death can bring comfort and peace. When we lose someone we love, instead of focusing solely on the grief of their physical absence, we could choose to celebrate their life and honor their journey. We could trust that they have simply moved into a new phase of existence and that they are still with us in some way, watching over us, guiding us. This shift in perspective can ease the pain of loss, helping us to accept that death is not the end, but a part of the eternal flow of life. There is another compelling reason to embrace this view of death as a transition, not an end. It allows us to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for the life we have right now. When we understand that our time in this body is limited, we become more mindful of the preciousness of every moment. We learn to appreciate the simple things: our breath, the warmth of the sun, the sound of a loved one's voice. We stop taking life for granted and begin to live with intention, savoring each experience, knowing that it is a gift. The evidence that death is not the end but only the beginning is everywhere. From ancient philosophies to modern scientific discoveries, from personal accounts of near-death experiences to the natural cycles we witness in nature, the message is clear: death is not to be feared, but embraced as part of the infinite cycle of life. It is a reminder that we are eternal beings, ever changing, ever growing, and ever-expanding. So, let go of the fear and begin to see death not as an end, but as an invitation to a new beginning. But you may ask, if death is merely a doorway, then where does it lead? Unraveling the hidden realms. Countless stories, traditions, and experiences hint at a vast unseen reality beyond the physical. These glimpses into the unknown, through near-death experiences, visions, and spiritual awakenings, suggest that existence extends far beyond what the eyes perceive. There is an entire landscape beyond the veil, one that operates on a level we are only beginning to understand. Some of the most compelling accounts of life after death come from those who have momentarily crossed into that realm. Many describe a sudden shift, a sensation of weightlessness, a feeling of expanding beyond the body. They often speak of landscapes bathed in an otherworldly light, filled with colors beyond human comprehension. Some recall hearing a deep, resonant harmony, as if the universe itself were singing. Others describe a presence, something vast and intelligent, yet intimately familiar. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this is a time when one encounters visions that reveal the true nature of the inner self. These visions are not random. They reflect the thoughts, emotions, and attachments carried in life. For some, this experience feels like paradise, while others confront their deepest fears. The lesson is profound. The mind does not simply vanish at death. It continues on, shaping the next stage of existence. There are accounts of guides or messengers appearing to assist the transition. Many who have had near-death experiences speak of being welcomed by familiar faces, departed loved ones, ancestors, or beings of light who radiate an overwhelming sense of peace. These guides seem to offer reassurance, helping the soul adjust to its new reality. Such experiences suggest that death is not a solitary journey, but one filled with guidance and support. Science, too, is beginning to take these accounts more seriously. Researchers studying consciousness have found that awareness may exist independently of the brain. Cases of verified out-of-body perceptions, where individuals accurately describe events that occurred while they were clinically dead, challenge the notion that consciousness is purely a byproduct of neural activity. If awareness persists beyond physical death, then what we call the end is merely a transition into another form of experience. Ancient philosophies offer insight into what lies beyond. The Greeks spoke of the Elysian Fields, a place where souls who lived with wisdom and honor continued their existence in a realm of beauty and peace. Hindu traditions describe lokas, planes of existence where consciousness moves according to its level of development. In these perspectives, death is not the dissolution of identity, but an expansion into a greater reality. Dreams often act as subtle doorways to this hidden realm. Many who have lost loved ones report encounters with them in vivid dreams, conversations that feel more real than waking life. These dreams are often unlike ordinary ones. They leave behind an unshakable certainty that something profound took place. Could it be that the boundary between life and death is thinner than we assume? Perhaps the mind, freed from the distractions of the physical world, naturally drifts toward this unseen dimension. Those who practice altered states of awareness have described experiences that parallel near-death encounters. They speak of moments where their consciousness expands beyond the body, dissolving into something boundless. Some report encountering luminous beings, hearing celestial sounds, or feeling a connection to an intelligence that exists beyond time. These experiences suggest that the afterlife is not a distant place, but a frequency of existence interwoven with our own. What does all this mean for those still in the physical world? It challenges us to reconsider the way we define reality. If life does not truly end, then every moment carries deeper meaning. Our actions, thoughts, and intentions shape not only this life, but the path that follows. Every act of kindness, every pursuit of truth, every effort to elevate the mind and spirit is not lost to oblivion, but carried forward into the unseen. This perspective invites us to cultivate awareness. If consciousness continues beyond the body, then learning to navigate different states of awareness now may prepare us for what comes next. Practices like meditation, lucid dreaming, and mindful reflection allow us to glimpse the vastness beyond physical form. They train the mind to remain steady, so that when the moment of transition arrives, fear dissolves and we move forward with clarity and understanding. The evidence is everywhere, woven into ancient teachings, recorded in personal experiences, and echoed in the mysteries of science. Death is not the end of the road. It is a doorway to a reality far more intricate than we ever imagined. The journey does not stop, it only changes form. But if death were a final ending, why do so many people recall memories of lives they have never lived? Why do certain places, faces, or even historical eras feel strangely familiar, as if already experienced? Memories that transcend time. Across cultures and throughout history, countless individuals have described detailed recollections of past existences. Memories that emerge not through imagination, but with a clarity that defies explanation. These stories are not random. Many come from children who, before the influence of books or external knowledge, recall intricate details of past lives, names, events, and locations that they should have no way of knowing. Some even possess unique skills or foreign languages they have never studied. Investigations into these cases have, in some instances, led to verifiable facts, dates, people, and places that align eerily with their descriptions. This phenomenon suggests that consciousness does not vanish at death, but instead carries forward, bringing echoes of past experiences into the present. Ancient traditions have long spoken of this continuation. Hindu and Buddhist teachings describe samsara, learning and refining itself. The ancient Egyptians believed that life was a test where the soul's deeds determined its next journey. In Plato's writings, there are references to souls selecting their next incarnations based on the lessons they still need to learn. These teachings hint at a grand design, where each existence is a chapter in a much larger narrative. Beyond individual memories, there are deeper forms of recollection, moments where people instinctively know things they have never been taught. Some possess talents that seem to emerge from nowhere, as if carried over from another time. Others experience unshakable connections to certain people upon first meeting them, as if their bond stretches across multiple lifetimes. Even fears and aversions, unexplainable by any past event in this life, can sometimes be traced back to distant experiences, long forgotten by the conscious mind. This raises profound questions about destiny and free will. If our consciousness moves through multiple lifetimes, are we bound by past choices, or do we have the power to shape our path? Many spiritual traditions suggest a balance. While past actions influence the journey, awareness and growth allow one to transcend old patterns. The choices made in each moment determine the trajectory of the soul, either repeating past mistakes or breaking free into new possibilities. Science is beginning to explore these mysteries. Studies on past life memories have revealed striking consistencies, with some subjects recalling verifiable details from distant places and time periods. Cases where birthmarks or physical traits align with injuries from a previous existence add yet another layer of intrigue. While mainstream science remains skeptical, the evidence challenges the assumption that life is confined to a single experience. Dreams, too, offer glimpses into this phenomenon. Many who explore deep states of awareness describe visions of lives they have never known, scenes that feel like more than just imagination. Some experience recurring dreams set in the same unknown location, as if returning to a familiar yet unreachable home. Others receive messages or insights from what seem to be past selves, guiding them toward healing and understanding. If consciousness extends beyond one life, then the way we live today shapes not only this existence, but what follows. Actions, emotions, and intentions ripple through time, carrying lessons that either liberate or bind us to repeating cycles. The relationships we form, the love we give, the wisdom we seek, these are not lost at death but woven into the continuing journey. This perspective offers a sense of continuity, a deeper meaning behind life's joys and struggles. It suggests that nothing is truly wasted. No experience, no moment of growth, no lesson learned. Everything contributes to an unfolding story, one that stretches far beyond the limits of a single lifetime. Death does not erase us, it carries us forward. Messages from the other side when the departed reach out. If death truly ended all, why do so many people report contact with those who have passed? Throughout history and across cultures, there have been countless accounts of the deceased communicating with the living, appearing in dreams, sending undeniable signs, even speaking through sudden thoughts or feelings too specific to be coincidence. These encounters suggest that those who have left the physical world are not truly gone, but instead exist in a different form, still aware, still present in ways beyond ordinary perception. Many who grieve a loved one describe receiving unmistakable signs, familiar scents that suddenly appear in an empty room, objects shifting without explanation, or electronic devices acting strangely at meaningful moments. Some report feeling a presence near them, as if someone unseen is watching over them with love. These experiences often bring deep comfort, a reassurance that the bond between souls is never severed, even when the body is no longer here. Dreams hold some of the most profound encounters with those who have passed. Unlike ordinary dreams, these visitations feel strikingly real. The emotions are vivid, the conversations are clear, and the sense of presence is undeniable. Often, these dreams leave the dreamer with new understanding, closure, or even direct messages that later prove true. Across cultures, it is believed that dreams serve as a bridge between worlds, a space where the living and the departed can meet when the mind is free from daily distractions. In many indigenous cultures, ancestors are believed to watch over and guide their descendants, offering wisdom through signs, visions, and intuition. The ancient Chinese practice of ancestral veneration is rooted in the belief that those who came before continue to influence and protect the living. Even in Western traditions, there are accounts of saints and spirits appearing to deliver guidance or warnings. These beliefs, far from being superstition, are built on centuries of shared human experience. Beyond personal encounters, there are striking cases where messages from the deceased have contained information unknown to the receiver, details later confirmed to be true. These moments challenge the notion that such experiences are mere imagination. When a message carries knowledge the recipient had no way of knowing, it raises a profound question. How can a mind that has supposedly ceased to exist still communicate with clarity and purpose? Some researchers have begun to explore these phenomena through studies on consciousness and energy. One theory suggests that the mind does not reside solely in the brain, but is instead a field of awareness connected to something greater. If consciousness exists beyond the physical body, then it is possible that those who have died remain accessible in ways science is only beginning to understand. Many who have had near-death experiences report encountering departed loved ones in radiant, peaceful surroundings. These reunions often feel more real than anything experienced in waking life. The emotions are intense, overwhelming love, recognition, and a deep sense of belonging. Some describe receiving messages of reassurance, as if being reminded that existence continues beyond this life. These experiences, consistent across cultures and backgrounds, suggest that death is not a separation, but a transition into a different state of being. Even those who have never had a direct experience with the departed may still sense their influence in unexpected ways. A sudden insight, an inner voice offering guidance, or an unexplained feeling of comfort in moments of despair. These are often attributed to intuition, yet they may be something more. Perhaps those who have passed remain close, gently shaping the lives of those they left behind. If the dead can communicate, then what does that mean for the living? It means that love, once formed, does not vanish. It means that bonds remain unbroken, stretching beyond time and space. It suggests that those we mourn are not lost, but simply existing in a form we can no longer see, watching, guiding, waiting for the day when our paths will cross again. The bridge between worlds. If death were the end, why do so many report moments where the veil between this world and the next seems to dissolve? Mysterious occurrences, sudden waves of peace in places of sorrow, whispers in moments of silence, unexplainable sensations of being watched over, suggest that reality is far more layered than it appears. There is a space between the physical and the unseen, a place where existence continues beyond what the eyes can perceive. Some encounter this threshold at the moment of passing. Hospice workers, nurses, and family members have witnessed the dying speak to invisible presences, smile at something unseen, or call out to long-lost loved ones as if they are standing in the room. These moments are not hallucinations. They often bring a deep sense of calm, as if the departing soul is welcomed into another realm before the body takes its final breath. Others have come close to this threshold and returned. Near-death experiences reveal striking commonalities: floating above one's own body, traveling through a tunnel of light, being greeted by radiant beings or familiar souls, and feeling an overwhelming sense of love and understanding. These accounts defy explanation, yet they carry a profound message. Consciousness does not rely on the body to exist. Beyond personal experiences, certain places on Earth seem to hold an innate connection to this unseen realm. Ancient temples, sacred burial grounds, and locations where people have gathered in prayer for centuries often radiate a powerful energy. Many who visit these sites feel an unshakable presence, a deep knowing that they are standing in a place where the material world meets something greater. These places serve as reminders that the physical is not separate from the eternal, but intertwined with it. Studies on energy fields suggest that every living being emits a frequency, a vibrational signature unique to them. Some believe that after death, this energy does not vanish, but instead lingers, reshaping itself in ways beyond current understanding. This could explain why some people sense the presence of the departed, or experience strange synchronicities that seem far too precise to be coincidence. Dreams, visions, and moments of deep intuition are often ways in which the unseen world communicates. Many who have lost someone dear find themselves suddenly filled with thoughts of that person at unexpected times. A song plays at the perfect moment, a familiar scent drifts through the air, or a symbolic image appears repeatedly, as if gently reminding them that they are not alone. These moments feel deliberate, as though reality itself is whispering secrets only the heart can understand. Ancient wisdom speaks of this bridge between worlds. In Tibetan traditions, the bardo is a place where the soul gains clarity and insight before continuing its journey. Egyptian texts detail a voyage through the afterlife, filled with trials that ultimately lead to enlightenment. Even in modern religious traditions, there are references to a space where souls prepare for what comes next, reflecting on their lives before moving forward. If these glimpses into the beyond are real, they suggest that existence doesn't end, it expands. The physical world is just one layer of a greater reality where every moment and connection holds deeper meaning. Nothing is truly lost. Love endures, and those who pass simply move beyond our sight. When our time comes, it won't be an end, but a transition into something vast and eternal. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.